How you doing, everyone? Welcome back. Now, I'm sure that you've heard about the shooting at the ICE facility in Dallas that happened earlier this week. Uh, One migrant was killed, and two more are in critical condition. The shooter is dead. And, of course, the first thing that we're told about the guy, what's the first thing we're told every time? It's the radical left. But is it the radical left? According to the guy's family, well, according to an article in the New York Post, which I will post a link in the or not in the comments, but in the description. I'll post a link to the description to this New York Post article, which, by the way, the New York Post, being a right-wing rag, right? I mean, it's not. I mean, it's basically a tabloid that that promotes the right-wing ideology regardless of the truth, right? But I'm still going to include that link in the description because the New York Post has an article in which the shooter's family says that he was not a radical lefty. Now, I know there was apparently a note written that indicated that he was anti-ICE. Sometimes those are used as decoys or, to throw someone off the trail of what they're actually, of what the actual motives are. And, you've got the shell casings, which had anti-ICE written on them. Anti-ICE. All right. Now, if you're anti-ICE, which apparently this guy was not. By the way, cisgender white man, 29 years old. He's right there in that range where the largest demographic responsible for these kinds of things, 20 to 29 or 21 to 29, something like that. Yeah, white men in their 20s. That's the largest demographic responsible for shootings. So anyway, that's kind of a throwback to a couple of other videos that I've done where I've touched on that fact. So, not a trans person, not a person of color. He was, however, apparently obsessed with the Charlie Kirk shooting. So, I mean, that, and apparently he searched multiple times for videos of the Charlie Kirk shooting. So, I don't know. That doesn't prove anything other than he was obsessed with that shooting. Now, what could it mean? This is all speculation, right? It could mean that he was a leftist, even though his family says otherwise. It could mean that he was a leftist who wanted just to see Charlie Kirk shot and killed over and over again. I mean, that could be, right? But more than likely to me, I mean, whether or not regardless of his motivation for the shooting, to me it looks like someone who was studying a very effective assassination, right? And say what you will about Tyler Robinson, I've got nothing positive to say about the guy, but he hit his target. I mean, one shot fired, and he took out his intended target. So that, right, that would be reason to study that video, right? Now, there are some pieces of information that you wouldn't get from watching that video, such as, well, I mean, you wouldn't see where the shooter was, the position of the shooter, or what kind of, the line of sight or anything like that. So I don't know if he was studying it. I don't know really what he would have learned about the shooter and where to be positioned to take the shot that you want, unless there are other videos out there that I haven't seen, and I have deliberately not looked up any of those videos, right? Because, I mean, look, I've seen gruesome death, and I don't need to see more of it. I mean, you tell me what happened. All right, yep, that's what happened. I mean, that's, especially when everybody in the world is saying, well, this is what happened. I'm going to take your word for it that it was as gruesome as you say. I gained nothing by watching that video. But I got kind of sidetracked a little bit there. So he was obsessed with the Charlie Kirk shooting. And I don't know if it was the shooting itself or the video. I don't know. Of course, there's also no reason to suspect that he's a right-winger either, necessarily. Other than it was detainees that got shot. It's possible that his motives were racist. He didn't like the migrants, right? He doesn't like people coming in here from all those Mexican countries, as Fox News put across the bottom of their screen here a few years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago. They had something about people coming from Mexican countries, despite there only being one Mexican country, being Mexico. But by the way, if you can hear that, Eva is over there making a little bit of noise. I don't know what she's playing with. It's kind of distracting a little bit. But anyway, got distracted by the cat. And, it could be, that he's racist against Latinos, right? It could be that he's a right-winger who wanted to take them out for, because we've been told, well, it's an invasion. Well, is it really an invasion? Not really. I mean, I understand why they're using that terminology, but I don't know. An invasion would be more of more of a military force coming across, and that, I'm sorry, but I don't see tanks rolling across our border, right? And they're not armed when they come across. I mean, yeah, there might be a handful here and there, but overall, they're not armed when they come across. So, we've got a lot of information that we don't know. And yet, the administration, or shall I say the regime, is, I don't even want to say they're jumping to conclusions. They're not jumping to conclusions. They're building a narrative. They are. They're building a narrative so that you will jump to conclusions. The more they say it, the more likely you're going to think, well, yeah, that's another leftist, right? Because they want to discredit anyone who disagrees with them. And by the way, a radical leftist to them is pretty much anybody even slightly to the left of Benito Mussolini. Liz Cheney is a radical leftist to them. Liz Cheney. I'm surprised they haven't thrown that. I'm surprised they haven't thrown that label at Thomas Massie. But it certainly doesn't apply to Liz Cheney. I mean, people used to think she was radical right. Yeah, until this version of the right showed up. But I don't know. There's too much that doesn't add up. Now, I know I did a video after the Charlie Kirk shooting saying, to avoid the conspiracy theories, right? Avoid the conspiracy theories. And I still believe that. However, there's a caveat here. And I'm not throwing any conspiracy theories out there, or at least that's not my intent. But the words anti-ice being written on the shell casings strikes me too much as, how do you do, fellow kids? What's that actor's name? Steve I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Steve Buscemi, is that right? Is that the correct way? What show was that from? 30 Rock, maybe? I don't know. I've seen the meme going around, and I looked up a clip of that meme, just so I could actually see the video of it, to kind of get the context. He's like some cop undercover or something. Yeah. Anyway, Anti-Ice has a how do you do, fellow kids kind of vibe to it. It's not like it's just not a slogan. It's not a slogan. I mean, some of the slogans that are used are fuck ice. I've also heard melt ice. What are some others that are out there? There's one that was in Spanish. Let's see if I can. I don't know. I've got a few of them here. I'm going to see if I can find one here somewhere. Some of the slogans that actually are used. Yeah, but bear with me here. Okay. I had it, and I'm just scrolling to find it here. Sorry. I mean, I normally don't look at notes on my screen. Okay. Chinga la migra, which is apparently it's Spanish for what? Fuck the immigration cops. Yeah, melt ice, abolish ice, fuck ice. Those would all make sense, right? What doesn't make sense is anti-ice, because it's just not something that those who oppose ICE would say. I mean, they'll tell you that they're anti-ICE, I'm sure, but they're not going to write it on a bullet. It's just not going to happen. I wouldn't think. And unless this guy was dumb, and I have no reason to believe that he was dumb. I mean, I also don't really know anything about him except for what he did and the fact that he's dead. So, I have no sympathy for him being dead. And I do have sympathy for his victims. And his victims' families. But yeah, according to this guy's family, he was not a lefty. Not a lefty, according to his family. But of course, that's what we're told, right? We get told radical left lunatic. Because all the violence comes from the left. Never mind the fact that I don't have that list in front of me to look it up right now, but I could give you a list of right-wingers who have committed political violence going back years. Years. And I don't even have to go back as far as Timothy McVeigh. Don't have to go all the way back to Oklahoma. I could give you a few from, actually just a few from the last few years is a long list. So, I don't know, it's suspicious. Don't jump to any conclusions. Don't start creating conspiracy theories, right? There's no proof that someone within the government wrote that on there. But it is very suspicious. It's very suspicious. And we know that the government is pushing a narrative. And they're pushing a narrative hard. And every act of violence is going to be labeled as someone from the radical left. So, radical left, to them, it means, are you in lockstep with this administration? No? All right, you're radical left. So, you know what? Even if you are a centrist Republican, right? Or a right of center, but not full-blown fascist Republican, you can be a traditional conservative, and you are a radical leftist to this administration. You know, I mean, if you think that the tariffs are stupid, because, well, they are, you're a radical leftist. And, you know, Trump is still out there making his threats, veiled threats. Actually, it's not even a threat that he made. It was a dog whistle to Proud Boys and other groups like that, the Patriot Front, the Three Percenters, you know, whoever else. It's a dog whistle to them when he said that that the left isn't as tough as the right, and eventually the right will do something about it. That's not like a verbatim quote. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what he said, but that's the gist of it. I mean, I don't have it verbatim, but I'll find that quote, and if I find it before I post this video, I'll post it in the description. Otherwise, I'll do it in another video. I'll do another video with the exact quote. But yeah, don't jump to conclusions, but also be very reluctant about believing anything that you're hearing about this, as far as you know, basically, and when the government has already shown itself willing to ignore the First Amendment, and they have threatened the press, revoked press credentials over something just as stupid as the AP referring to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of Mexico. Too many reporters are caving just to get access. So, I don't know. Don't buy into the conspiracy theories unless we have evidence of them, which at this point we don't. But at the same time, you can't trust a word that is coming out. You can't trust the official word on pretty much anything. But yeah, I mean, according to this guy's family, he was not a radical leftist. And like I said, that's an article in the New York Post, which is a right-wing rag. And I'll put a link to that article in the description. I'll see you next time.